What makes a leader? Our culture often gives us a clear but flawed picture: the charismatic speaker, the dominant personality, the ruthless visionary who achieves results at any cost. We've come to associate leadership with noise, with authority, with an unshakable self-confidence that often borders on arrogance. But we've all felt the consequences of this model: toxic workplaces, burnt-out teams, and short-term gains that lead to long-term ruin. What if there was a different model, a timeless, more durable framework for leadership? Nearly 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosophers offered one. They saw leadership not as a position of privilege, but as a moral duty, not as an exercise in ego, but as an act of service. For them, true leadership had nothing to do with charisma and everything to do with character. In this masterclass, we will decode the 4 fundamental principles of Stoic leadership. This is a system you can apply whether you lead a multinational corporation, a small team, a local community, or your own family. We will learn how the Stoics built unbreakable teams and navigated crises, not by shouting louder, but by mastering themselves first. This is not a guide to becoming a boss. This is a guide to becoming the leader people would willingly follow into a fire. The first principle of Stoic leadership is the most important and the most difficult. You cannot lead anyone else until you can lead yourself. Your inner state is not a private matter. It is the single most powerful influence on your team. A leader who is prone to anger creates a culture of fear. A leader who panics in a crisis creates a culture of chaos. A leader who is disciplined and rational creates a culture of discipline and reason. Your team does not listen to your words, they mirror your state of being. The Stoics called our rational mind the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty. A leader's primary duty is to keep their own ruling faculty clear and untroubled. This is the dichotomy of control applied to leadership. A bad leader obsesses over what they cannot control: the market, the competition, what other departments are doing, even what their own people think of them. This leads to frustration and reactive decision-making. A Stoic leader, on the other hand, relentlessly focuses on the small circle of things they can control: their own judgments, their own actions, their own character, and the clarity of the instructions they give. They understand that their main role is to absorb the chaos from the outside world so that their team can operate with clarity and focus. They are the calm center of the storm. Think of Marcus Aurelius. He was dealing with war, plague, and betrayal, yet his meditations are not filled with complaints or panic. They are filled with constant self-examination, reminders to stay calm, to see things objectively, to act with virtue. He knew that if the emperor lost his head, the entire empire would fall into chaos. He had to be the unshakable rock upon which everyone else stood. This is your first and most fundamental task as a leader. Before you check your team's progress, check your own mind. Before you demand discipline from others, demand it from yourself. The standard you set for yourself becomes the silent, powerful standard for everyone you lead. You must build your own inner citadel first, not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of service to those who depend on your strength. Once a leader has achieved a degree of self-mastery, they must answer the most important question: where do I point the ship? The second pillar of Stoic leadership provides a clear and unwavering answer: serve the common good. This is the Stoic antidote to the ego. A weak leader makes themselves the center of the universe. Their decisions are based on: how will this make me look? How does this benefit my career? Will this make me popular? This ego-driven leadership creates toxic cultures of politics and backstabbing because everyone is encouraged to serve their own self-interest. A Stoic leader understands that they are not the mission. They are a servant to the mission. The mission is the boss. Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly: what is not good for the beehive is not good for the bee. This simple, powerful idea was his ultimate decision-making tool. When faced with a difficult choice, he wouldn't ask what was best for him. He would ask what is best for Rome. By making the common good the ultimate authority, he removed his own ego from the equation. This makes leadership simpler, clearer, and far more effective. This principle is what underpins the famous "do your job" mantra of the New England Patriots. The job is not just your individual task, it is your specific contribution to the success of the entire team. The mission's success is the only success that matters. For you as a leader, this means defining a clear and noble purpose for your team, your family, or your organization. A why that is bigger than any single individual. When everyone is aligned behind a common good, internal politics fade away, difficult decisions become clearer, and work transforms from a series of tasks into a meaningful pursuit. The Stoic leader constantly reminds their team and themselves that they are not just laying bricks, they are building a cathedral. The third pillar of Stoic leadership is the discipline of seeing the world not as you wish it were, but as it truly is. A leader cannot afford to be a blind optimist, nor can they afford to be a paralyzing pessimist. A Stoic leader must be a realist. Our minds love to create narratives. When faced with a problem, we either catastrophize, imagining the worst possible outcome, or we engage in wishful thinking, hoping the problem will magically disappear. Both are forms of delusion. Both lead to poor decisions. The Stoic leader trains themselves to strip away these emotional narratives and see the plain, unvarnished facts. This is the leadership application of objective description which we learned from Marcus Aurelius. You don't say, "This project is a complete disaster." That is a judgment. You say, "We are 15% over budget and 2 weeks behind the original schedule." Those are the facts. Now what is our next move? You don't say, "Our competitor is crushing us." You say, "Their last product launch captured 10% of our market share." What does the data tell us about why? This is the essence of what became known as the Stockdale paradox, named after the Stoic-inspired POW James Stockdale. It is the ability to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be, while simultaneously retaining unwavering faith that you will prevail in the end. It is a powerful duality. You do not ignore the storm, you acknowledge its power, you respect it, and then you calmly begin to navigate through it. A leader's job is not to be a cheerleader who ignores problems, nor a doomsayer who spreads panic. Their job is to be the most clear-eyed person in the room, to face reality head-on so they can guide their team through it effectively. As Epictetus said, the first step is to see things for what they are. For a leader, this is not just good advice, it is a sacred duty. The final pillar of Stoic leadership is what separates a manager from a true leader. It is the shift from controlling people to cultivating them. This is the gardener's mentality. Too many leaders act like chess masters, treating their team like pieces on a board, each with a fixed function, to be moved and sacrificed for a grand strategy. This model is built on control. The Stoic leader adopts a different, more powerful model, that of a gardener. A gardener understands a fundamental truth of nature. You cannot force a plant to grow. You cannot pull on it to make it taller. The potential for growth is already inside. So what is the gardener's job? Their job is simply to create the optimal conditions for that growth to flourish. You are responsible for the environment. This means creating a healthy, non-toxic culture, the good soil. It means providing the right resources, training and support, the water. It means removing the bureaucratic obstacles and interpersonal friction that choke progress, the weeds. And it means giving your team a clear, inspiring mission, the sunlight. This entire approach requires a leader to abandon their ego's need to micromanage every detail. It requires trust. This is the essence of true empowerment. You hire the best people you can, you give them the tools and the mission, and then you trust them to execute, offering guidance and support along the way. The goal is not just to manage tasks, it is to develop people. The ultimate success of a Stoic leader is not creating followers who depend on them, but cultivating future leaders who can thrive even in their absence. They don't build a machine that requires a single operator, they plant a garden that can sustain itself, and so we arrive at the complete picture. The Stoic leader is not a single identity but the master of 4 interconnected domains. They build their inner citadel first because they know they cannot lead others if they cannot lead themselves. They direct their actions towards the common good because they know a mission larger than themselves is the only antidote to ego. They face reality with clear-eyed pragmatism because they know wishful thinking is a luxury a leader cannot afford. And they act as a gardener because they know their ultimate duty is to cultivate the potential in others. These pillars are not a checklist, they are a system. You cannot be a good gardener if you haven't mastered yourself. You cannot see reality clearly if your ego is distorting your vision. Every part depends on the others. This is not an easy path. In fact, it is a path of immense burden. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the weight of his purple robe, the symbol of his imperial power. He felt its crushing responsibility every single day. The loneliness of command is real because the final decision, the ultimate accountability, rests with you. The Stoic leader accepts this weight not with a sigh but with a sense of purpose. It is the price of making a difference. Ultimately, Stoic leadership is not a title you are given, a position you hold, or an authority you wield. It is a character you must build relentlessly, every single day through practice and self-reflection. It is the choice to absorb pressure so that others can have clarity, to face chaos so that others can have order, to put your own ego, your own comfort, and your own fears aside for the good of the whole. It is, in its purest form, an act of service. Whether you lead a nation or your own family, the principles are the same, and the challenge is eternal. The question is not whether you are ready to be a boss. The question is, are you willing to do the hard work of becoming a leader?